It is a profound honor to address you today in this significant institution, which stands as a beacon of knowledge, culture, and peace among nations and peoples of the world. I also consider it a special privilege to have this opportunity to visit UNESCO when Sri Lanka is celebrating the 75th anniversary of its partnership with this global body. May I also take this opportunity to convey Sri Lanka's deep condolences to the government and people of Myanmar and Thailand and express our solidarity during this time of grief in the spirit of our long-standing friendship. Sri Lanka's 75th anniversary of its partnership with UNESCO is historic, and we celebrated last July with a very productive visit to Sri Lanka by the Director General, Madam Audrey Azoulay, and it's culminating today in Paris with the convening of this expert conference on Anuradhapura, one of the most revered heritage sites and cultural treasures in the world. This conference also provides us with a unique opportunity to reflect upon aspects of Sri Lanka's long-standing collaboration with UNESCO, a partnership that has reinforced and enriched our shared vision of advancing intercultural dialogue, heritage conservation, education, sustainable development, and technological progress. At the outset, I extend my deep appreciation to the Director General, Madam Azoulay, for her steadfast support of Sri Lanka and for her vision and leadership in organizing this international expert conference. This timely initiative, gathering the world's experts on Anuradhapura and on heritage conservation, provides a critical platform for dialogue, knowledge sharing, technical collaboration, and resource mobilization, thus reinforcing our collective responsibility to protect and sustain this invaluable cultural legacy for future generations. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the shifting geopolitical landscape of the world today is formidable, shaped by the intersection of multiple forces, including the rise of multipolarity, economic realignments, and technological advancements. These dynamics have led to more complex diplomatic interactions and strategic recalibrations. In this backdrop, UNESCO's role as a global leader is more relevant than ever in negotiating the contours of such challenges, as well as in locating the organization firmly at the forefront of global discourses, be they education, ethics of AI, environmental sustainability, cultural preservation, or press freedom. In this context, we commend UNESCO for its contribution to advancing current discussions on global education reform, a project that is very close to my own heart, in garnering unprecedented recognition for culture and for reaffirming its commitment to harnessing knowledge and innovation for global peace and development at the UN Summit for the Future. Similarly, UNESCO's action on ethical AI implementation, marine biodiversity, conservation, and climate resilience are indeed timely. Further, UNESCO's action in cultural heritage protection, such as Revive the Spirit of Mosul, has demonstrated the organization's leadership in post-conflict reconstruction of historical and cultural sites. Amid global complexities, Sri Lanka supports UNESCO's efforts in collaboration, resilience, scientific cooperation, and inclusive policy making for peace and sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, in Sri Lanka, the ancient kingdoms of Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa stand as remarkable testaments to refined aesthetics and cultural development of a highly advanced hydraulic civilization. These unique heritage sites, located in the Cultural Triangle and conserved with the support of UNESCO since the 1980s, also symbolize Sri Lanka's long-standing partnership with the organization. I wish to recall at this point the important contribution of Sri Lankan archaeologists and conservationists themselves to UNESCO's body of work on heritage conservation and management from the 1980s within the World Heritage Committee, ICOMOS, and ICROM. Noteworthy is the outstanding contribution of the late Dr. Roland Silva, president of ICOMOS International from 1990 to 1999, and subsequently its president emeritus, whose vision helped shape modern heritage conservation. I would be remiss in my duty if I do not place on record our gratitude for the enormous contribution of the former Directors General of UNESCO, particularly the late Amadou Mahtar Mbow and the late Federico Meyer, towards the preservation of the historic sites of the Cultural Triangle, including Anuradhapura in the 1980s and the 1990s. I extend Sri Lanka's deep condolences on the passing of these two visionary statesmen last year. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we deliberate on the Anuradhapura Heritage Project, I want to give you a glimpse of the uniqueness and spirit of Anuradhapura. My earliest memories of Anuradhapura was as a child. Like most families in Sri Lanka, a trip to Anuradhapura was part of what we did during school holidays. I remember traveling to Anuradhapura in the early 1980s. The ride from Colombo took about 8 hours during that time, maybe even longer. Anuradhapura was not a bustling city then. I remember staying in my uncle's hospital quarters where he worked as a doctor, and I remember the excitement as a child of staying at one of the two rest houses, one adjoining the majestic Nuwara and the other the beautiful Tissa, two of the oldest hotels in Anuradhapura. I remember going at dusk to worship at Ruwanveli Saya, to the sacred Bo tree, to the Samadhi Buddha statue. Even as a child, I felt the magic of Anuradhapura, the sense of awe at the creativity and skills of our ancestors. As a young adult, I often went to Anuradhapura on work. This was in the 1990s, and Anuradhapura was beginning to change. The war that ravaged our country during that time had a huge impact on Anuradhapura. It became a transit point between the north and south for the military. The sleepy district hospital that I remembered as a child expanded to accommodate military casualties and exigencies of the war. The town started changing from a somewhat laid-back town to a bustling urban city. During that time, Anuradhapura also became the target of terrorist attacks. Even sacred sites was not spared. The real tragedy of the war, however, was the emergence of border villages. Villages situated close to the war zone. Life in border villages was insecure, to say the least. In the district of Anuradhapura, these villages were mostly organized around Anuradhapura's vast irrigation network. People living in border villages usually spent the nights hiding in forests to avoid attacks. Of course, hiding in forests meant that you also had to protect yourself from wild elephants and other wildlife. Life in the border villages was precarity experienced in the most extreme sense. Today, Anuradhapura has grown beyond recognition. In the classical sociological sense, Anuradhapura is a unique mix of the sacred, activities belonging to the spiritual realm, and the profane, relating to the everyday and material realm. The farmer toiling in his rice fields or vegetable plot will stumble upon archaeological artifacts dating back several centuries. The precious water irrigating the field is stored and distributed through an amazing irrigation system that deserves a special place in our conservation efforts and dates back thousands of years. Managing the irrigation system also requires archaeological skills. Water plays a special role in Anuradhapura, perhaps in Sri Lanka as a whole. Whether for irrigation, building moats for protection, for everyday life, or as part of the landscape, the archaeological discoveries of highly decorative ponds that were built not just for beauty but for water sports underscores this close connection that people have with water and the attention that was paid to conserving, storing, and managing water. The bird life, the different flowers, unique to the brush and dryness of the area, the magic of flying fish in the moonlight, seeing the great stupas in the moonlight, the lakes shimmering with their glow. There is something magical about Anuradhapura that I have not experienced anywhere else. With daily pilgrims and tourists, Anuradhapura is also a vital agricultural hub, blending sacred sites with schools, hospitals, and markets. Its conservation is complex, yet essential. Anuradhapura's heritage is worth preserving not just for Sri Lanka, but for its universal value, as has been acknowledged by UNESCO. Current excavations suggest that Anuradhapura's earliest settlements date back as early as 900 BCE. There is evidence of the existence of a writing system, trade, the emergence of Buddhist monastic settlements, technological advances, system of social stratification, proving the existence of a sophisticated and cosmopolitan city. Central to this is city planning that marks Anuradhapura. The inner citadel, containing the essential components of power and authority, such as the royal palace, and services such as hospitals, cemeteries, and trade, leisure, and ritual sites. Outside by the city, by the vast reservoirs, were the agricultural settlements where the normal citizen dwelled. Between the city and agricultural settlements were Buddhist monasteries, where rather than the ritual aspects of religion, what was stressed was study and meditation. This suggests the existence of a very advanced and sophisticated culture. This sophistication is also evident in the attention to beauty, whether it is the magnificent reservoirs, majestic stupas, serene Buddha statues, beautifully crafted water facilities for leisure, intricately carved toilet pots, or the thoughtfully placed pillar or window framing a particularly enchanting view. Anuradhapura has always been a site of worship for Buddhists, not just from Sri Lanka, but all over the world. After all, a sapling of the sacred Bo tree, under which the Lord Buddha gained enlightenment, is one of the main pilgrimage sites in Anuradhapura. Hundreds of thousands of pilgrims visit Anuradhapura on religious holidays, and the needs of these pilgrims also need to be considered. These include accommodation, food, sanitation, etc. Anuradhapura has the potential to be a major tourist site, one that builds on its heritage value, attracting a particular type of tourist. It has the potential to be a major international site on education, research, and dissemination of archaeology, history, irrigation, and art. It is of value as a site of Buddhist learning, and this can also be expanded to the world. We are also very conscious that heritage, history, and archaeology has been weaponized in the past by racist groups to divide our people and for narrow political gain. My government rejects racism and is striving to acknowledge and celebrate the diversity of traditions and cultures in Sri Lanka and to bring people together. We firmly believe that history and archaeology can play a significant role in educating people about our common heritage and also how different traditions and histories have enriched each other. But all of this means managing different and perhaps even competing or conflicting interests. The lives of the present inhabitants of the city, its heritage and archaeological value, the needs of local and international tourists may not always be aligned. This is the challenge before us. Balancing the needs of Anuradhapura's inhabitants, heritage, and tourism is a challenge, but its importance is undeniable. Our proposal goes beyond Sri Lanka. It is about preserving global heritage. This requires sustained expertise, resources, and collaboration, making this conference crucial in uniting key contributors. Our government plans to develop 3 cities as heritage cities in Sri Lanka: Anuradhapura, Jaffna, and Kandy. We selected these cities for the moment because each of these cities represents what we think is a unique characteristic spirit that represents some aspect of the Sri Lankan identity. Whether it is the resilience of Jaffna, the multiculturalism of Kandy, or the spirituality of Anuradhapura, these cities encapsulate some of the best of Sri Lanka that we want to protect and share with the rest of the world. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, amid climate change, socio-economic inequalities, and geopolitical challenges, UNESCO's leadership in global collaboration, technical expertise, and heritage conservation remains vital. Sri Lanka is dedicated to partnering with UNESCO to develop adaptive strategies, blend innovation with tradition, and ensure resilient, future-focused heritage policies. As a member of the Executive Board, Sri Lanka is actively engaged in contributing towards shaping UNESCO's policies, strengthening international cooperation, and ensuring that the organization's programs align with its constitutional mission. Sri Lanka champions intercultural dialogue, peace, and heritage preservation, leading UNESCO's decision on the International Day of Vesak's annual commemoration reaffirmed our commitment to unity in diversity on the global stage. In keeping with this commitment, I am pleased to announce that Sri Lanka will today formally hand over the instrument of accession of the 2005 UNESCO Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions. This important step underscores Sri Lanka's dedication and commitment to safeguarding cultural diversity, promoting artistic freedom and expression, and ensuring that all cultures have equal opportunity to flourish in an interconnected world. Before I conclude, allow me to take this opportunity to extend my deep appreciation once again to the Director General and to the Member States of UNESCO, the President of the General Conference, the Chairperson of the Executive Board, and the Assistant Directors General and the Secretariat for their steadfast support, cooperation and collaboration in supporting Sri Lanka's continued efforts in delivering on the dynamic mandate of UNESCO, and for their able stewardship of UNESCO's program of work. I would also like to thank our Ambassador to France and Permanent Delegate to UNESCO, Manisha Gunasekara, for her tireless efforts on behalf of Sri Lanka and particularly the Anuradhapura Heritage Project. Today's initiative thrives on the dedication of stakeholders, experts, and international donors. I thank all who contributed to the success of this conference and look forward to its outcomes and Sri Lanka's continued collaboration with UNESCO. Let us aspire not only to preserve our shared heritage, but to ensure that it continues to inspire, educate, and unite generations to come. Thank you very much.